Let's talk about the spiritual traps that every single one of us steps into and many of us are still in. Because I feel like it is really hard to differentiate between, is it really spiritual growth or am I actually standing in my own way, and is my ego actually preventing me from further spiritual development? We are really gonna dive deep in today, and we're gonna talk about all of the controversial topics because, guys, they started to come up in my personal life lately, and I feel like this is all because of the lunar eclipse that we have today in Libra. So I hope that everything is gonna still work out today, even though we have eclipse today. And those topics are very common in the spiritual community and very controversial, and those things are actually preventing us from our personal and spiritual development. So I really want to address those things because they have been coming up for me lately, and I have been really working hard on actually getting through those things and getting away from those traps and understanding them on a much deeper level. So we are really gonna dive deep today, and for everyone who is new here, welcome. I'm Anna and I'm a spiritual life coach and an astrologer, and my purpose is basically to help you to find your purpose in your life, because most of us are not using their fullest potential in this lifetime, and this is what I'm here for, because there is nothing that I hate more or that hurts me more than to watch somebody who has huge potential and is wasting it or is not aware of it. And this is where I can be of service to you. So if you're interested in something like that, if you want to develop yourself on a spiritual level and on the personal level, then you are welcome to stay and you're welcome to subscribe to my channel. And now we are gonna move to our video and we are gonna dive into those juicy topics and those traps that are preventing us from our spiritual development. I would say I'm gonna start with the first one, which is the most common and which is something that I have addressed on my channel also very, very many times. But I feel like sometimes you can get, like, if you only hear this video and you don't think a little bit further about what I actually mean by that and what many other people mean by that, you get, like, you can kind of get trapped into this wrong idea. And I'm talking about overcoming the matrix. Everyone in the spiritual community is talking about, let's break out of the matrix, let's overcome it, and let's ascend. This is something that we hear and that is very, very common. And where we kind of tend to get it wrong is the idea that overcoming the matrix means that we want to escape from being a human being and that we want to escape from this reality, which is not the way to go. Because, you know, matrix is there and is here on earth for a reason. It is not a construct that we need to overcome in a sense of completely break out from it. Because no matter what we are gonna do, we are still humans right now, incarnated on this earth, and we are in the matrix. There is no way that we can actually transcend it, or like the only way that we can really transcend the matrix is when we go to the other side, because then the matrix doesn't apply to us. But as a human being, no matter how hard you are gonna try, if you're gonna meditate on a mountain all by yourself, you are still in the matrix. But what many people, myself included, probably mean by that, or I'm gonna speak from my personal perspective, whenever I'm talking about overcoming the matrix, I mean, like, first of all, recognizing that there is something like the matrix in this reality, because not everyone is aware of that. Not everyone is aware that reality is just kind of this illusion, because all of those things that you hear, yes, they are correct, because we are all one at the end. We are all, you know, there is nothing like time and space, like everything is just energy. That's everything that there is. But still, as a human being, we have few things that apply to us on this earth. And the key here is to understand that once we are aware of the matrix, we are able to overcome it in a sense of we are able to use it to our advantage. Because sometimes we feel like the world is working against us, we feel like the matrix is just this bad construct, but the matrix can be used to your advantage. The matrix and the world can be created the way you want to actually create it, because every single one of us is already a creator and we create our own reality. So this is where this idea gets it right. I just don't want you to get trapped in the idea of we need to escape the matrix and basically the human experience, because the human experience is exactly what we came here to do. We came here to experience the human reality and the human life. So even though the vessel that I am in currently, and every single one of you who is watching this video is in, we are so more than just the 3D body that everyone can see, right? So I'm actually not me. I'm my higher consciousness. The personality that I am wearing in this lifetime is just a part of the human experience, but on a deeper level, it's not actually who I am. But as a human being, this is a part of who I am. So those two concepts, and this concept in general, is can be very confusing for many of us. And this is something that I also kind of was struggling to understand in the first place as I started to go into the spirituality, because I was like, well, what's the point of being a human then if we want to overcome it? And I was like, well, then let's just overcome the human part of the experience. Since reality is actually not real, let's try to overcome it and let's try to pretend that we are not human, but that's not the way to go. Because when we are able, we need to find a balance between, yes, we know that there is so much more to us than being that human being. We know that the reality is just a construct, that the matrix is actually just a construct, and okay, even though we have all of that knowing, we are still human beings on this earth and we are still in the matrix. However, it's important to know that we can change the matrix to our advantage. We can actually use it to work with us instead of having a feeling that it works against us, because at the end we have created exactly the reality that we live in right now. So you are fully responsible for the reality that you live in right now. So if you don't like the reality that you live in currently, on some level, and I know this is the part where your ego screams like, what is she talking about? Or stuff like that, right? Your ego doesn't like to take the responsibility for all of the things that went wrong in your life, and for the negative feelings that you have, for the negative, behaviors that you have, and for every negative encounter with people, for example, that you have. Our egos don't like to admit that it's actually their fault, or not a fault, because it's not a matter of, who is to blame for my reality, but just acknowledging that you have the power to create your own reality, and everything that you have created in the life that you live in right now comes from your internal state. So if you want to actually improve something in the external reality, you need to work on yourself internally. And that's the second topic that I really want to dive deep into, because when we understand that, okay, matrix is just a construct, but we still live in the matrix, and there is nothing that we can do except from transcending into the other side, that is gonna basically free us from the matrix. And basically when we stop to think of the matrix as something that is against us, it only comes from the victim mentality. When we think that we actually are not responsible for co-creating our reality, and when we take the fullest responsibility of how we are living currently, we step into our power. Because then we're like, first of all, we have to admit that it was our fault, that it was our internal state that have created the external reality. But then we can step into our power, because then we can be like, okay, I am not happy with where I am right now. I am not happy with the person that I am right now. I am not happy with my habits, with my job, and, with your life in general. But I actually have the power to change that. There's nothing external that has caused it. It's actually the internal things that have caused my reality to be the way that it is right now. Then we can really see what are the internal patterns that we need to work on in order for us to actually create the reality that we want to live in. And this is not an easy process, not at all. When you are gonna embark on that journey on working on yourself internally, really going through the darkest parts of yourself, this is probably one of the hardest things that you will need to do as a human being. But it is so worth it, because then you can really start to live in the reality that you want to live in. And this is so empowering, but again, very challenging concept to understand, because our egos are like, no, those things happened to me, I wasn't responsible for those things, And yes, sometimes it can really seem like we don't have, there's nothing that we can do. But again, in everything is a lesson for us. And that's why the Matrix actually always works in your favor, and the universe works in your favor when you see how it works, when you see beyond the construct of it, and again step into that creator mindset and not into the victim mentality. Because when you are in the victim mentality, this is where you will think that the Matrix is something that works against you and that needs to be overcome. But it's actually not the case, because everything that we experience is just either something from past lives or like a lesson that we need to learn in this lifetime from past lives because we didn't learn it there. And we know those things. We know everything that is actually, wrong on the internal side of things. We know what's wrong internally with us, like what's wrong, what are the challenges that we need to overcome. But our egos are standing in our way to actually see it and admit it. And admitting it to yourself is really, really hard because we don't like to take the responsibility for all of those things. But again, when we are able to do so, we can step into our power. So I really want to hear from you guys, like if you also stepped into that trap of thinking like I have to overcome the Matrix, but when you think of reincarnation and about the human experience in general as something that needs to be overcome, then what is the purpose of you incarnating as a human being? It's not to overcome it, because as a soul you have that higher knowledge. As a soul, you see everything from a higher perspective. So what's the point of going back into it? Like, what would be the point of incarnating as a human being if on a soul level you already are perfect? So it's not a matter of overcoming the Matrix, overcoming the human experience, but creating the most amazing human experience and the most amazing life that you can actually create on this earth, and to see all of the challenges and to see it as a gift for your personal development. Because that's the purpose. That's the real purpose of being a human being. It's to evolve. And our soul wants us to evolve. That's why we face all of those challenges. If our life on earth would be perfect, we wouldn't have anything to overcome. So what will be the purpose of it, right? But the whole reason why we incarnate is to overcome those challenges and to actually grow from them. That's why we have all of those challenging times in our lives. And many of us have like constantly the same challenge like over and over again until we learn it. And this is also something that we can see in our charts. But generally speaking, don't try to overcome the Matrix and don't try to overcome the human experience. This is again another thing that I have struggled with, because I tend to go from one extreme to the other. Like I'm 100% in or not in at all. So you have to imagine I went from like in my teenage years, I was just laying in a couch, watching series the entire day. This was my whole life, and eating unhealthy foods. And then I would, feel bad about myself. I would really feel bad in my body in general. I was very depressed. And then I went from this extreme to other extreme of like over exercising, paying too much attention to what I was eating, then finally finding the balance between all of those things. And this was the trap again once I stepped into spirituality. Like this is just a topic in my life that I need to work with, as stop going to those extremes and finally like going into the balance of things and finding the balance in my life. And I think I'm not the only one who has that problem. But this topic was again like once I stepped into spirituality, and you probably can think like, is there something like being too spiritual? Yes, there is, because I was trying to overcome the human experience. I was trying to deny that I am me right now, even though I'm not. Right. So I was really trying to deny the human experience. I was trying to deny my needs and wants, and I was like, okay, so now I'm gonna become very spiritual. I'm gonna never watch series again, never watch movies again, never eat anything unhealthy, because on watching it from a higher perspective, those things aren't the best for you. That's true. Like I have the awareness of, yes, watching a horror movie isn't the best for me. Like there are other like videos that you can watch, and actually you can actually attract negative entities into your aura, into your auric field when you are watching horror movies, but you can also protect yourself from it. Many things are created to lower our vibration. and are not optimal for our spiritual growth. But still, I'm a human being and I enjoy watching movies. And even though I'm very spiritual in, a sense of I like to do my meditation, I like to eat very healthy foods, I like to nourish my body properly, to move my body, qigong, meditation, things like that. Yes, I love those things. But also from time to time, I like to watch a movie. Like one time per week, I like to just sit back and get into comfy clothes and eat something like a pizza or something and just sit there and watch a movie, even though, it's not the best thing for you. But I feel like it's maybe not the best thing for my soul, but it's the best thing for my body in the moment. And I have tried to deny all of the needs that my body has, and believe me, it doesn't work. It's gonna hit you back like 10 times harder when you try to resist it. And again, this is something that we tend to kind of get wrong, because we are humans. We are gonna make mistakes. Also, guys, another thing, there is nothing like complete enlightenment. There is nothing like I'm gonna work on myself right now, on my personal and spiritual development, and then everything is gonna be easier, right? Then I'm gonna have the perspective on everything. I'm gonna understand how the matrix works and everything, and I'm gonna be just this calm person, and I'm gonna always be aware that the universe works for me and things like that. No, that is never gonna happen, because we are still human beings. We can be as enlightened as humanly possible. We can have the awareness of, everything that is beyond this 3D reality. We can be able to communicate with our spirit guides. It does not mean that we are never gonna get angry, that we are never gonna get annoyed at something, that we are never gonna lash out on somebody. It's simply not possible, because we are still human beings. We have emotions. And yes, we can learn to control them better, to understand them better, and it's gonna get easier with time. But you are still gonna, make mistakes. You are still gonna do things that, when you think of them later from a higher perspective, didn't make that much sense, or weren't in the highest alignment with who you truly are at a soul level. You are still gonna do those things. There is not a, concept, there is not enough spiritual work, enough personal development that you can do in your life that would allow you to overcome those parts of being a human being. Again, that does not mean that, then I'm gonna be just the worst version of myself. No, because that's, again, like swinging the pendulum to complete the opposite, right? We need to find the balance between those things. And one tip that I can give you is, whenever a negative feeling arises, don't try to ignore it. Don't try to be like, oh no, but this doesn't align with who I am on a higher spiritual level, so I'm gonna just ignore it, right? No, that's not the way to go, because then it's, gonna come out in various different ways. It's, again, pretending like you're not a human being, which is not the case, because then we are actually feeding our spiritual ego. So you are denying your human ego, but you are feeding into your spiritual ego, which is just the part of yourself that wants to, be so spiritual, because you are gonna have this awareness that others don't, and things like that, right? Those traps, like, oh, I'm gonna be so enlightened, and all of those people, they don't have the awareness of everything that is actually going on. Do you see how your ego just shows up under a different cover in that moment? So again, with those things, it's like, don't try to deny them, but feel them and allow them to come up, and then act on them from a higher perspective. So whenever you feel angry, allow this anger to fill you out completely. Allow it to fill out your body, and be like, okay, I'm allowing myself to feel angry right now, and like really feeling into that emotion. And then once it passes, because feelings pass, right? We just need to allow them to actually develop fully, and then they are gonna pass. And then you can be like, okay, this made me angry. Why? Or what steps do I want to take because I felt angry? How do I want to act on that? Do I want to act it out? Do I really want to lash out on this person? Or can I actually now, once this anger passed through my body, can I come to the person that made me angry? Can I meet them from a higher perspective? This is the right approach. Because again, yes, you could actually act on that anger and hit something, but that wouldn't be coming from your highest perspective. Again, probably you are still gonna have those moments where you just won't be able to see the things from a higher perspective, where you are gonna be caught up in the human experience and in the anger that or the emotion in general that you're feeling. When something like that happens, don't beat yourself down. Don't be like, oh no, like I'm making those mistakes again. Try to still come towards yourself with as much love as you possibly can, because when you do it, when you give yourself the love that you need in that moment, when you treat yourself with compassion, you are gonna automatically treat others with as much compassion as you are treating yourself. Because many people can fall into the trap of you are gonna beat yourself down whenever you are gonna make a mistake, and then you are gonna subconsciously treat other people the same way that you are treating yourself, because at the end we are all one. So the way you are treating yourself is gonna show up in the way you treat other people. That's why building a healthy relationship with your own personal body, with your own personal experience as a human being is so important, because then you are gonna be able to meet others with as much compassion as you are able to show yourself. So those are the most common spiritual traps that I see that people fall into on their journey. And then we again can feel like, because we feel imperfect, because we feel like, oh, now I failed because I'm a human being and I get angry from time to time. I failed, so at some point you are just gonna be so annoyed with yourself that you are gonna just completely stop on your spiritual journey. And that's really not the way to go. That's why, we need to find this balance between, yes, we are a soul, we are all one, but we are still a human being having this human experience, or we are a soul having this human experience, and, finding a balance between all of those things. So this is really, really important, and something that came to my mind lately as I was going through my own shadows and doing shadow work. And that's why I want to share those things with you, because I know many of us are struggling with that, and nobody from spiritual community wants to address those things because they are so controversial. And whenever we are watching somebody who we think is very, spiritual and the spiritual guru, we tend to have this idea of them like being on this pedestal and being perfect and being this perfectly spiritually developed person that never gets angry, or that is basically not a human being. This is something that I also, was struggling with. I was watching all of those spiritual people, and then I felt bad about myself, because I was like, well, they seem to have everything under perfect control. So I was trying to do the same. Again, it didn't work out the way I wanted to. So stop to deny that you're a human being, but take control of it, take charge of it, and take responsibility of your human side, which you have. And then we are able to really act from a higher perspective, right? I think that talking about topics like that is very important in the spiritual community, so that we get the idea out of our head that being spiritual is something reserved for pure people, for people who have all figured out. Nobody will ever have it completely figured out. Like, even if I'm helping, you guys to find your purpose, you are never gonna be like, okay, this is my path and I know every single step of the way 100%, and now I have this awareness of what my life should be like. You are never gonna have it, because you are still gonna struggle from time to time. Sometimes you're still gonna be like doubting yourself and doubting your purpose. And yes, at some point it's gonna get easier to trust the universe, but I don't think that we are ever gonna get rid of it 100%. We are still gonna have moments where we are gonna doubt it, where we are gonna feel, where we are gonna have bad days. This is also another thing, like I always, because I hate it when I'm low in energy. I really like to be, to have much energy, to be able to give as much energy as I possibly can to others, to the world in general. I like to be in this higher vibrational state. And then whenever I have a bad day, I'm like, what's wrong? Like, what's wrong with me? I thought this part of my life is over, because I also used to struggle with depression. So I was having, bad days constantly, like bad days in a sense of like, I don't know even what I'm doing here, and I actually don't want to be here right now. on this earth anymore. And so I was used to that, right? And as I went into my personal development on this spiritual development journey, I was like, when I'm gonna overcome all of those things internally, I'm gonna only have good days. That's also not gonna happen, guys. You are still allowed to have a bad day. You are still allowed to feel bad for some reason and not being able to explain it. Sometimes it's just the energy that we catch from the collective, from people that are surrounding us. You are allowed to have those feelings. But here comes the thing. As you move with your, along your spiritual journey, as you move on with your personal development, you are gonna be able to differentiate between where those things are coming from, and you are gonna be able to be like, okay, I have a bad day, so what? It's gonna pass. So being able to see it from a bigger perspective. Now, whenever I have a bad day, and I also still have those sometimes, obviously not as much as I used to be, because now I have all of those techniques and all of those habits that are helping me to stay in a positive state. But sometimes, even if I do all of those things, I'm just having a bad day. And then instead of being like, oh my God, my life is so bad, everything is against me, and going into this victim mentality, I'm either trying to really figure out where those feelings are coming from, or I'm accepting the fact that I'm just having a bad day. And then I'm like, okay, I'm apparently just gonna have a bad day, and most of the times, guys, laughing at it, it's gonna make it so much better. You can see me right now, I'm laughing because there were so many moments where I was like I don't believe this is happening, and then I just started to laugh because it was so bad. I was like, I don't think this day can get any worse than it already is. And I started to laugh, and it makes everything better. So laugh at yourself. This brings me to the last point that I want to address in this video, is sometimes we feel being spiritual means being very serious and being very, concerned with the realms beyond and with the, spiritual experience. And we feel like all of those spiritual gurus are so, so evolved that they are over every human emotion, basically, and they are so serious because they, see everything from this bigger perspective. And no, that's also one trap that we can fall into. You need to become like a child again. Like a child, you need to start laughing at things that are just randomly happening to you. You need to start laughing at yourself whenever you feel like, you are stuck in a situation, or you are stuck in some kind of feelings, or whatever it might be. Becoming like a child again is the way to go. Not becoming more serious and more concerned with the world, and that, people are currently dying somewhere in the world, so why should I laugh because I have this higher consciousness? No, that's actually not the way to go, because then guess what? You are bringing more negative energy into the world. And this is not what we want to do when we are aware that we are one. Because when you are aware that you are one with everything on earth, being happy, being positive is something that is gonna help everyone around you, because you are gonna bring more positive energy into your world, more positive energy into your environment. The last thing that I want to address is, when you are spiritual, it does not mean that you are gonna have this big, huge purpose in life that is gonna impact the entire humanity. Becoming spiritual and aware of your purpose can simply be acknowledging what small things you need to change in your life, within yourself, that are gonna make your life better. It can be as simple as, okay, I can see in my birth chart, I have karma around relationships. I have karma of, always paying only attention to myself, and actually I need to learn how to pay attention to others. So what can I do to make it happen? Well, instead of always focusing on my needs, I'm gonna try to focus on what my partner would do, for example. How can I tend to his or her needs? How can I improve their life? And this does not mean, again, improving the life of every single person and only paying attention to everyone who is surrounding you and becoming this kind of hermit that never pays attention to themselves, but becoming aware of, okay, this is my karma, this is something that I need to work on, so I'm gonna try to incorporate things, or small things that I can do for my partner to make their lives and their day better. Small things like writing them a message on their lunchbox, like that, you know, I love you, or something like that, like you're awesome, small things like that. Believe me, a person like that who maybe didn't even hear anything about enlightenment, about spirituality or whatever, and maybe that person even doesn't believe in reincarnation or life after, like that we are souls, but it's still, you know, the type of person that always laughs, that always brings good energy, that never is, you know, very pessimistic, you know, that is never blaming others, but is always taking responsibility for, you know, their own things that they are going through, and just the type of person that when you are around you feel great to be with. That person can be more enlightened than a spiritual person that is gonna be like, oh, I'm this spiritual guru and I'm so much better than everyone else because I have such higher awareness. Does this sound like a spiritual person to you? Like really on from a higher perspective? Which one of those two people would you think is actually more evolved on a spiritual level? Because I would say the first person, even though they don't believe in spirituality, reincarnation, that they have a soul, but they are the kindest people that you have ever met. Those people are gonna have a much more, I don't want to say meaningful life, like, but a much more happy life, and a life that will actually contribute to a better life on earth in general, because they are gonna bring all of that positive energy. They are the ones that are bringing that positive high vibrational you know, vibes to everyone around them. And that's why spirituality and, you know, starting your spiritual journey, it's amazing. And it's something that is really gonna like transform your life completely to a much better level and way of being. But again, we need to be aware of the traps that we can fall into because of our egos. Because again, we are still human beings, and that's why those traps are gonna happen. But that's why I want to address them so that you can become aware of them and actually see where those things are coming from, and if they actually are leading you to a higher purpose, or if they actually are preventing you from, you know, developing further on your personal journey. So let me know, guys, which of those traps do you resonate with? Which of those traps did you step into, or are you currently having trouble with? Let me know in the comments down below, and we can, you know, talk about that. I can give you a few tips, you know, from my experience, and we can just help each other out on our journey, because this is something that I really want to create with this channel for you guys, and with, you know, the informations that I am providing. So I really hope that this is gonna help you. I really hope that you enjoyed this video and that you enjoy sitting back with me. Please let me know, you know, what topics you would like me to address next in the upcoming videos. I would love to do it for you. And thank you for being here. Thank you for your time. I wish you an amazing day. I'm sending you all positive energy, positive vibes. Also, don't forget to subscribe and to share that video with somebody who might benefit from that. Also, don't forget to subscribe to my Patreon membership to get exclusive content from me, guys, and to support my channel. I really appreciate it, and have an amazing day, and I see you in my next video. Bye, guys.